When you grow up in a small town, you end up doing weird stuff just to pass the time.
I'm Jessica Fortner from Livonia, Michigan. Let's talk about that.
Good Mythical Morning.
This episode is brought to you by Smule, makers of fine musical iPhone and iPad apps, including Songify.
We are doing a contest right now. We announced it last week. We're asking you to songify an original GMM jingle using the Songify app. You send that to us. Details are in the description of how all that works, but you can win mythical shoes and a $100 iTunes gift certificate. The entries are flowing in like this one.
Wake up and watch Good Mythical Morning. Rhett and Link's talk show in the morning. When do you watch this? In the morning. Mythical, good mythical. I got it.
Thanks for participating. It's easy, and it's potentially free if you go about it correctly. So participate. You might win something. Have a good time. That's what this is about. Participating and having good times.
I'm having a good time just listening to them.
Today we're going to reminisce about small town life. In the news recently, the smallest town in America was sold. Beaufort, Wyoming. Population 1.
It's a small town.
One man lived in the town of Beaufort, had his own zip code, sold the town at auction. An unidentified businessman from Vietnam purchased the town for $900,000. That's just shy of $1 million.
Probably my uncle.
You have a Vietnamese uncle.
I do, and he's really into buying small towns. I need to call him.
So he hasn't said what he's going to do with the town. He hasn't even said who he is. He remains unidentified.
So one man sold the town to another. What's in the town?
Well, there's a gas station, an old schoolhouse from 1905, and a 3-bedroom house that I guess the guy lived in, and it had a garage. That's it. At the gas station, there were a few mailboxes that people from like outside of the town would come in and get their mail.
Well, I think he's going to move his family to the town. They're going to live in the 3-bedroom house. The kids are going to go to the school. His wife is going to teach him, and he's going to work at the gas station.
It's a simple life, but
where do I sign up?
Well, you don't have $900,000.
I want to be like the teacher's assistant at the school, or maybe like the gas attendant.
The guy who's selling the town says that he's going to write a book about his experiences in the town. I guess looking out his 3-bedroom window at the old schoolhouse, and that's a great book.
How I sold a town to a man in Vietnam
for $900,000, and you can too. Oh well, so
you got to buy the town first, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Or inherit it.
So it reminded me of growing up in the town of Buies Creek. You know, that's where we grew up. Now, it was a population of more than one.
Yeah.
But it was still a very small town. So share in the comments your experience if you grew up in a small town. I was born in a small town, and I live in a small town. Probably die in a small town. Soft snow. Computer tea.
Computer tea?
Yeah!
Computer tea. I don't remember that part. That must have been in the Vietnamese version of that song.
John Cougar Mellencamp, man. I mean, that's a great song.
And he still lives in a small town in Indiana.
Indiana?
Yeah.
So Buies Creek was...
well, it wasn't near... It wasn't...
What was the population?
I think at the time we were there, it's about it's less than 1,000 people, but then there is pretty much the reason that Buies Creek, it is a town, is Campbell University.
So see, it had a school too, but it wasn't an abandoned school built in 1905.
Yeah, it's actually a university. And, home of the Fighting Camels. The Campbell University Fighting Camels.
That's the mascot.
A lot has changed there, but there's a sign when you come into Buies Creek, at least there was when I grew up there, right there next to the shortstop, and it said, "Welcome to Buies Creek, home of the Fighting Camels." And one day, as I was being taken to school, I think actually that day my dad was taking me to school. He would take me to school sometimes and then go to work at Campbell University where he was teaching. Somebody had changed the sign. They had left the F from fighting and the C from camels. But they had changed it to "Welcome to Buies Creek, home of the fat chicks."
Which was there truth to that? I'm not at liberty to say.
But, it's just a little student prank.
And it was a small town. If it wasn't for Campbell University, it would be nothing. But, I mean, because of Campbell University, there was at least a short stop. That was a gas station.
Yeah.
And this is how small the town was. There were no traffic lights. But I remember one day, there was a huge celebration almost, just a flurry amongst the town people because they were putting up a traffic light. But it wasn't a traffic light. It was just a caution light.
It was blinking.
One blinking yellow light.
Well, it was yellow.
That's all we had in our town.
It was yellow one direction. It was red the other direction.
Oh, it says, yeah, so you either had to stop or you had to...
Stop or slow down.
Be careful because there's a slim chance, but you might actually meet someone on this road every 80th time that you drive down it. So, growing up in this town, we didn't have a lot to do. No. We lived on opposite sides of the town. And again, the town was so small that Rhett would call me up on the phone and he would say, hey, you want to get together? You want to ride bikes? And I'd say, yeah. And then we'd both hang up the phone, go outside, get on our bikes on opposite sides of town and start riding to the midpoint. And so within like 7 minutes on our bikes, we will have met in the middle of this town in the graveyard.
And then we'd see each other and we'd give the bike high five, where you go by on one bike and then I go.
And then like that?
Yeah. Didn't we do that? We should have.
No. But if we had a mythical handshake, we could do that. So
yes, we haven't decided upon what the mythical handshake will be yet.
But there just isn't a lot to do. So I remember we would just get on our bikes and we would just ride around in hopes of finding something to do. Like, oh, look, what's that on the side of is that roadkill up there?
Yeah, let's go turn it over.
Let's go check it out.
Let's go poke it with a stick and see if it pops.
Yeah. That's what we did.
You can have hours of fun with roadkill depending on how fresh it is.
I remember the main thing that we would do is we would find abandoned houses.
Well,
like beside the road or even back in the woods, if you don't find any roadkill, if you don't find any abandoned houses, you start going into the woods and you'll find in the middle of the woods with trees growing all around it. I'm not talking no driveway, no road, no nothing, just a house.
Oh, those were the best.
From like way back in the day that's been long abandoned.
And we would just go up to this house. We'd find an open door or a window or something, and we'd just go in there, and then we'd just kind of sit, and we'd be like,
well, we would.
Hey, we're in an abandoned house. Isn't this cool?
Yeah.
Let's act like we're having a meeting of some kind.
Let's milk this for all it's worth, because we probably won't have anything else to do once we leave.
And then we would call attendance. Link?
Here?
Rhett? Here?
But I remember it was real creepy, right? Because they would all look spooky and dilapidated. And I remember the first one we went to, we just kind of stood outside of it, and we weren't really prepared to go inside. It's, you go in first. No, you go in first. No, you go in first.
But sometimes we would find one that I question whether or not it was truly abandoned. Because once you go
in retrospect,
because once you go into one abandoned house, some of them are obviously abandoned. They're in the woods. There's nothing in them. But I remember one time we went in one and there was furniture inside of it. It was like it was like the door was kind of cracked open, and it was like, I don't know if somebody
the television was still on.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't that fresh.
Yeah.
But maybe it was in foreclosure or something. But you'd go in there and you'd I remember opening drawers in the house.
Yeah, well, it was still abandoned though. I remember there were lots of old bottles and stuff in the kitchen, and you remember those old bottles that made out of glass that looked like they had different medicines in them? I remember there would be a lot of those in abandoned houses. And then on the walls there would be murals painted. Like people had come in later, like squatters, and they would paint murals and whatnot. It was kind of like cave paintings, but kind of in a modern, vagrant kind of a way.
But my favorite abandoned house of all was the one that was down there next to the dump, and there was a silo next to it.
Yep.
And some days you would go and you would get in the silo, and some days you would go and you would get in the abandoned house. First of all, our parents had no idea we were doing this. If my kids were hanging out in old abandoned houses and silos, I would freak out. But we just did this every day. And so I remember there was it was close to my house, so we went there all the time. And then, I'm not going to incriminate this person because he's probably a doctor or something now, but one of our friends' older brother, you know who I'm talking about.
We'll put his name in the description.
He wired the house up with dynamite and blew it up.
Yeah.
Our favorite hangout, he was like, hey man, I got some dynamite.
Well, we weren't there. We were not there. For the record, we were not there when it happened. But that was the inspiration for you writing that part of the job description sketch where you talk about
job reference.
Yeah, job reference. That's a description. Yeah, that was the inspiration.
He blew up like our dream house, our dream abandoned house.
Yeah, what were we gonna do now? You know, we have to ride our bikes to find another house.
If you're a kid out there watching the show, I'm just gonna advise you: don't go in abandoned houses. Don't make the mistakes that we made. It could be wired with dynamite, first of all.
Be safe, people. Be safe.
But if you're an adult and you're watching the show, we know a lot of adults watch the show. What are some of the stuff you did as a child that you now shudder to think that your kids would do it?
It's just creepy. The abandoned houses, you know, you just felt like anything could happen. The floor could fall in. What is this?
Rhett gives birth to a baby hippo.
Oh, gosh.
This was a suggestion of someone's.
Someone had this in their mind?
Yeah, I don't know.
This person was obviously from a small town. Do we have a doctor in the house? I think he's pregnant. With a...
What? What is that? Oh my God!
Let me pick it up. Let me pick it up. Oh, no, slimy.
Oh,
Was that a hippo?
I think so.
Gosh.
How did that happen?
Oh.
Let me wrap it in something. What should we call him? It's a he.
Oh, gosh.
I'm gonna name him after you.
Every day I wake up with GMM, I start my day off right. You need to get with the program. Rhett and Link will make you laugh without warning. Let's talk about that on Good Mythical Morning.